I think average Indians walk very less. And because he's not walking on the road, the public demand also is not there.
I won't agree that average Indians walk less.
FSI thing is picked up easily because there's a market there. There's no market for pedestrian interventions. While we make footpaths, the challenge always was to have enough funds to do an end-to-end footpath.
You highlighted that bureaucrats get transferred a year or two. Do you think this time frame was...
I was just hoping that you should not ask this question to me. One think tank, they were emphasizing that we should have cycling. In Chennai, you can't cycle. It is always humid. If you focus on a pilot, all departments of the government will help you. But the moment you scale it up, it becomes a different level of problems.
Nowadays, there are concepts like, minute city, low emission zones.
Many of these are Western concepts. They are yet to test the waters in our country.
Think about this. We spend hours stuck in traffic, complain about bad roads, floods, garbage, pollution, and yet we call this chaos home. Hi, I'm Ruchita Bansal, your host, and you're listening to the Human-Centric podcast. Today I'm speaking with IAS officer Anshul Mishra, who has been at the heart of Chennai's urban transformation, from rethinking mobility to bringing inclusivity into city planning. What makes his perspective especially unique is that he brings together both worlds as an urban planner by training and an administrator by practice. So, good evening, sir. Welcome to the Human City podcast. It's such a pleasure
Good evening,
to have you
Ruchita.
here.
Good evening.
So, sir, most Indian cities, life means traffic, long commutes, floods, and rising costs. From someone who has been inside the system, why do you think the lived reality of citizens still feels so disconnected from urban planning conversations?
Okay, so to put in the context from the very beginning, every country undergoes this process of transformation from primary sector to secondary sector to tertiary sector. And today we see the urban systems in a mess. Now, I don't want to be cynical. I don't want to say that it is all completely, unwanted, undesirable situation. There are challenges though, and we need to face all of that. And fortunately now there is serious discussion about how we should organize our urban space, how we should make it better to live in an urban area. So that discussion has started, and I would say that during my last 20 years of my career, I have seen this intensification of this debate, and with governments becoming more serious, putting in more resources, more money in urban systems, and things are changing. You can see visible changes like metro rail systems are coming everywhere. I mean, there's debate whether the city should have metro rail or not, but it is a fact that metro systems today are one of the most efficient urban transport systems in the country. Now, having said that, there are multiple other issues which we need to face, we need to address, and for that, we need to go towards more organized planning, more integrated planning, and more holistic planning, urban planning per se. And for this, you need to basically have few things in place. You need to first of all have capacity to plan.
So that's true, but when it comes to urban planning conversations, we fund a lot on things which are related to technology. There are some cities which really don't even require metro. We are coming up with metro in those cities also. So is it that we are pushing too much into technology interventions rather than actually doing that groundwork, what is needed?
Well, so that question brings us to the realm of political decisions, and I don't want to discuss on that. But I would say that while these political constraints are there, we can still find a way to use technology in the best way possible to maximize the utilization of resources. Having metro in every city would be an aspirational thing, probably. You have smaller cities in the world who have metro or tram systems, very, very small populations, they have that. But this debate I want to leave aside. I would want to rather say that while we take these decisions, who is there to tell us, okay, this is right, this is wrong, on evidence base, right? So evidence-based planning is a new thing. And I remember doing this master plan in Chennai, when we started emphasizing that we need to undertake multiple studies to, help us with evidences to prepare the master plan. There was a lot of pushback. So I'm not blaming anyone, this or that side. I'm saying that, first of all, we all have to agree that we have to have evidence-based decision making for the cities. Now, whether a metro rail is required there or not, that has to be decided based on evidence, not only on aspirational kind of objective. So I will again leave it at that. Now, having said that, the capacity to provide evidence based decision making framework is also limited. Now, in Chennai, the third master plan is being prepared. We are finding it difficult to get one setup which can tell us that this is the framework, these are your studies, this is the analysis, these are your chapters, this is your master plan. It is not happening because there is no professional setup. I would not blame consultants, I would not blame the government setup, I would not blame the other stakeholders, but I would say that framework is not there, it's missing. And for all cities it is the same thing. But we are going there, that to that stage, and probably it will take some time. And while these discussions are on, ultimately we will have to have efficient cities. Otherwise, I mean, that is the only way, and we have to reach there today or tomorrow. I think things are positive. I'm a very positive person, so I would say things are positive and forward looking.
Sir, as they say that India is very chaotic, but still people are very positive. But then, sir, again, when you were working with CMDA, Chennai was simultaneously dealing with rapid densification, mobility stress, climate issues. So, from your vantage point, what did this complexity reveal to you about how Indian cities actually function versus how they are actually planned on
Yeah.
paper?
So as I said, that cities have been growing in India in an organic way. Most of the cities in the world have gone through the same phase, but at some point of time, the decision makers and the stakeholders took a decision that enough is enough. Now we have to plan properly so that we can grow in a more sustainable way. Sustainable not in the environmental sustainability point of view only, but sustainability in terms of having a city unfolding with good quality of life, with the ability to make income, ability to live their life the way they want, and a lot of freedom with everybody included, and all of that. So that kind of sustainability I'm talking about. It's an overall holistic sustainability. So that is the Western countries, most of the cities did that. They're also facing some problems, of course. Climate change is definitely a new thing to grapple. But for cities in India and in the global south, first set of problems is still existing. So it's very difficult to talk about climate change and environmental sustainability when you have a lot of urban poor is still not able to sustain their lives in the urban setting. I would say Chennai is a very interesting example of being a laboratory of all these challenges, because it is facing floods every day, climate change, the extreme weather conditions, and infrastructure deficit and urban sprawl. Although Chennai has one of the better transport systems in terms of a very good bus system existing there, it could not take the load of increasing pressure from population and increasing urban space. So those challenges are existing. But as you said, chaos is there, but still we are positive because things happen in Indian way. And I think that we need to find an Indian solution to fix our problems. We can't just copy paste from outside because that may not fix anything. So while we take some example, compact city, densification, fixing the public transport systems, these could be very, very important interventions. And while doing this, we have to keep in mind that these days everybody understood that cities have to be seen as growth hubs, because economy is very important. Urban economics is all the more important. So now there's need focus on metropolitan or city level economics and how it is playing there, what is the dynamics, and how it is related with the labor which is there. Labor in the sense that people who live in the city are basically labor, white collar, blue collar, or whatever. And these people need to live there. These people need to go for work. These people need to go to house. And there's a huge population of migrant laborers. There's a huge population of students, and people then go for leisure time, entertainment. So all of that requires to be taken into account, and then we need to plan for a better city. As I said, challenges are huge, but at least we are able to identify the challenges now. We are able to articulate that, and most important, we have the language which everybody understands. I think we need to work on that a little more. So policymakers understands, consultants understand, private sector understands, and other stakeholders understand. So that common language will help us move ahead.
So, of course, there are a lot of issues, but again, we have labor markets. So, if you have existing labor markets, you need a lot of people centric interventions. Like Chennai has been able to come up with pedestrianization and non motorized transport in a system otherwise dominated by car centric thinking. So, what was the turning point that made such an approach institutionally
No,
accepted?
so I would say pedestrianization is still is an issue in Chennai, but definitely the dependence on bus system, and there's already existing MRTS, and the metro, the way it is coming up, is going to play a very vital role. And of course, it is again decision making and the need to understand that there is a problem with transportation within the city, and that therefore we need to invest in that. So I would say the Chennai Metro is definitely is going to be very, very vital for the growth of the city, and it is going to be an example for other cities as well. The bus system also again, so they had an old fleet, and they are now replacing with new buses. That is a very important one because that is catering to a lot of people moving crisscross in the city. The pedestrianization thing has is yet to happen because the footpaths, the conditions of footpaths, and the continuity, usability, the accessibility, all those things are still a big challenge. That needs to be, of course, when you have the metro system in place, probably you will be able to exactly understand where we need to promote pedestrianization, transit oriented development, and we talk about the densification around the along the corridors. We'll be able to move towards this walk to work kind of culture. Probably, I hope, and I wish that that will happen.
So, when it comes to TOD, all we end up doing is giving higher FSI along metro routes or any kind of public transport routes. And when it comes to actually the walkability and accessibility, those things are talked about in the plans, but really not implemented. So, where do you think is the gap?
Well, I would say that all of this is linked, and the FSI thing is picked up easily because there's a market there. There's no market as such for pedestrian interventions. That's basically seen as a kind of a municipal service, a municipal public utility which needs to be provided by the local body. Now, local bodies have multiple things to do. I worked as commissioner, if I can tell you, multiple things to do. And also, there's a prioritization issue. While we used to make footpaths, the challenge always was to have enough funds to do an end-to-end footpath. And now the another thing was that most of these interventions are along the market areas. The residential areas are still cut off, or even if it is done once, so you'll have one slab fallen, and then obviously there's the continuity issue will be there. So there is a operation and maintenance issue, the non-prioritization of walkability as a public utility which should be there but not existing in the urban local bodies, and essentially they do it. FSI is a profit making. It always connects with the builders and real estate developers. Increasing FSI is not just increasing built up space. It is basically leading to a situation where you can use land in an optimal way. Mumbai has some examples, Ahmedabad, even Hyderabad, and that has multiple answers to the challenges which we face. So definitely that has to be done. While the focus should also not we should not lose focus on walkability connected with that neighborhood planning and connecting that to the corridors, connecting that through public transport. So smaller systems like tram systems or other transportation methods can be kind of integrated. So bus systems can be integrated to the stations and all that. So there's multiple things which we need to do.
You mentioned about evidence-based planning and that Chennai is making their own master plan. But our master plans, they basically span for decades. So do you believe that India needs to move from static master plans to more adaptive, iterative planning models? Or maybe we need more action plans based on those master plans?
Okay, so typically master plan is for 20 years. Most of the world is adopting this model as of now. So master plan is not static, but we tend to take it static. That's a problem. The way things happen in government, review of anything which is long term becomes a problem. It's very easy to do, but anything which goes beyond the year, it becomes a problem. So I would suggest that master plan should be reviewed every 3 years or 5 years with a very definite set of review items. For example, land use. Now after 5 years we should be able to see which are the areas where you require more housing, where is the pressure, and it's easy to find that. All you need to do is to collect data of last 5 years and see what is the trend, right? Review your master plan after 5 years, maybe 2 months exercise only for land use, and see, okay, this was wrong. I mean, this was not working. Let's move to that direction. So that kind of approach will help. And as you said, definitely it should not be treated as a static document. It's a guiding document. which will help you give the broad direction to a city. But at the same time, there should always be a chance to rectify and correct whenever the need be.
So, sir, when it comes to Indian planning processes, we are, heavily dependent on consultants and think tanks. While expertise, of course, is valuable, do you see this as weakening long-term institutional capacity, with planning authorities themselves?
That's a good question. But I would say everybody plays a role. And at this point of time in history, I can say that while there is capacity constraint within the government setup, I would say that the consultants who are exposed outer world, I mean the developments in the Western countries mostly. So we don't need to rediscover anything. We have to just see how they fix their transport problem. For example, London, how did they fix their transport problem? How are they looking at their economies inside the city, the economic activities which are happening, how they are accommodating those demands? I mean, you need to look there and just adopt that. So the planners who are having exposure with these things can help, and that's what they're doing. Having said that, the local context is very important. The existing government setup would definitely help, because unless there is a good kind of combo, a collaboration to open up to new ideas, to new solutions, the private firms and the consultants have to understand the context and customize their solutions. In fact, in Chennai, we had more than 15, 16 firms participating in the third master plan activity. I used to tell them, please contextualize, understand Chennai first. Otherwise, your solutions will not work. You can talk whatever you want to. So that is one thing. But institution is also a collaboration between think tanks, academic institutions, and government. So take it in a broader sense. And if there is a setup, for example, there was a proposal for urban planning council for each city. I think Mahua had suggested that for all the states to have it. There, the co-opting the experts and planners for broader discussions and brainstorming would have been a good idea. I hope that happens soon in future. So that kind of institution setting is important. One more thing I want to say is that the academics in urban planning and architecture, urban design, and urban economics is not grounded in reality. At the same time, the government setup, the existing institutions, the urban authorities, urban local bodies, urban development authorities are completely out of touch with the latest academic research. So that is a big gap. And I think we should have some kind of institutional framework where we can collaborate with them. And the research should happen in real time, on ground, and that should then go as input for the decision making process. I think that is a very important thing which we should do.
Okay, that's good, sir. So, sir, from inside the system, what kind of resistance is actually hardest to shift? Bureaucratic inertia, political timeliness, or public resistance to change?
I would restrict my reply to urban planning. Inertia is everywhere. The consultants who come to local to urban development authority or to CMDA, for example, for a study or something, they also have fixated ideas. Sometimes they have kind of set methods to arrive at certain conclusions, and if you don't ask them right questions, you will not find a good output. So I'm not blaming anyone, I'm not putting anybody in the dock, but I'm just saying that everybody comes with their own biases. But it would be good if we are aware of those biases and we come at the table saying that, okay, we have this to offer, please tell us how you want to take it. That's a very professional thing. From the government side, in the urban planning, I found two things. One, that offices like me, I have studied urban planning, so I understand, but I may not be there in the position to take a decision. There may be somebody else who has not studied urban planning, to be typically a bureaucrat, a senior officer with a lot of insights about what is happening on ground, may not be aware of the solutions, and the language also may be different. So the challenge is to kind of negotiate through that, maneuver through that. And the second thing is a huge resistance coming from the planners who are already in the government system. They become more bureaucratic at times, in the sense more resistant at times, because it's very difficult to change them, because they have seen a different setup, a different kind of mindset, a different kind of approach to deal with urban problems. In fact, I would say that their priorities have been different, their understanding of the urban problems have been different, and As an independent planner, they're not able to think. So that is where the challenge is. And I found it very difficult to change that mindset. I used to call them old boys and girls club. And it was not easy to convince, but some of them are good, particularly those who have the knowledge of rules and regulations, those who have seen over the last 20, 30 years how things have unfolded, how things have not worked. They can give a lot of insights there. So definitely there will be resistance anywhere and everywhere. You need to negotiate it. You need to work around and try to convince them. If you can't convince, then you have to find another way.
So, sir, what role does individual leadership play versus institutional culture, which it's very rigid at times? Where does that real transformation or resistance really
Difficult to
begin?
answer this question. Where does it begin? But everything requires a trigger, and changes happen because there's some trigger. But the point is, the language which you speak has to be understood by others. Otherwise, you can just say and go. It doesn't make any sense. So you have to really work hard to convince others, take them on board. For example, in third master plan exercise, we decided that we will go to each and every department, stakeholder department, call them, have a detailed workshop with them, tell them what we are trying to do first, and ask them that these are the things we require. Also tell them, you tell us how you want to look after 20 years, your department, what is your vision? If you want, we can help you with your vision. So that kind of give and take relationship has to be developed to convince others, because they would just see what is there for me. And the way departments work, their political window is a small 5 years, their bureaucratic window is only 2 years. So the incentives are not there. Why should I work on this? Why should I take this up? By the time it ends, I will not be there. So that kind of mindset is there, but we need to overcome that by telling them, you are going to be a citizen of this city. You're going to be here for a long time, even if you're not in this position. The decisions which you take today here are going to have impact in a longer term. So why not do that? So I'm just saying these are examples. There are multiple such things where, because planning was not done properly, you face problems in future. So to prevent all of that, all of us need to understand that we need to actually plan for our future. All of us are involved in that. May not be directly, but indirectly, every one of us are involved in that. And as I said, individuals can trigger it, but transformation will happen only when everybody collaborates.
So, you highlighted a very good point that most of the bureaucrats get transferred a year or two. So, do you think this time frame also
I was
needs
just
to be
hoping
looked
that
at?
you should not ask this question to me. It's not about the tenure. It's about the interventions which are started, which are like initiated. There should be an ownership by the department and by the government. That, okay, this we have started, whoever started it, and if the person leaves, that has to continue with the next person. So that kind of understanding should be there. The solution, I don't have a right answer to that, but I would say that whenever there's an opportunity, we should just act, and things will become better. And also one more thing is, these kind of transformations, broader understanding of these kind of things across the sections, political, non-political, bureaucratic, non-bureaucratic, public, and all that, happens only when there's a critical mass. When discussion has just begun, you can't expect things to happen quickly. And of course, individuals cannot do much beyond a point. It has to be accepted as a challenge for urban India, that our cities are in a mess. These are the solutions. This is the template. All of us have to follow that. So, for example, urban governance, which was being talked for last 30, 40 years, we had a template, right? So we have to provide better urban facilities and services to people in the cities. And that happened. And Genuine RM came in, a lot of funds were given, and things become. But urban planning was the next initiative which has been taken now. I know many officers who are studying urban planning, interested in urban planning and urban governance. I'm sure that critical mass will happen soon, and everybody will then understand the language. Everybody will take similar kind of initiatives, and continuity will be there. So that is all I have to say at this point in time.
So nowadays there are a lot of concepts like minute city, low emission zones, and even though there are a lot there in the discussion, do you think such concepts can be replicated to Indian cities, or they can only be done at a neighborhood level?
I have a slight different kind of understanding of these concepts. As I said initially, that many of these are Western concepts originating primarily from the West. They are yet to test the waters in our country. So I'm not saying that they're not applicable here. They might be applicable. So I don't know how it will unfold. It's a premature thing to say today. So I generally take them with a pinch of salt. that these ideas are great. So one think tank, they came and discussed. They were emphasizing that we should have cycling and we should cycle to work like Netherlands and Scandinavian countries and all that. In Chennai, you can't cycle. It is always humid, right? So I mean, this is a basic thing. What is applicable there may not be applicable here. It is not going to happen because people at large have to take it. I can take examples of Chennai because I've seen that complete street. So when they came to us saying that this complete street is a very fantastic example and is being quoted here and there, first question I asked, okay, what are the challenges you face in doing this? Whether those challenges will face elsewhere also. Were you able to get another project similar to that? Answer is no. Because if you focus on a pilot, all the departments of the government will come and help you there. It will be successful. But the moment you scale it up, it becomes a different scale. It becomes a different level of problems. It becomes a very difficult situation. So those challenges we must understand, and we must customize all of these solutions to Indian cities, to the local context.
So whenever we are doing streetscaping, I guess it's not more towards the mode, but more about making the area safer or the city safer. Now, you mentioned that from pilots to when we really want to implement things on the ground, everybody backs out. Sir, why is this mindset there? Because cycling might not be acceptable in city like Chennai because of the weather and all those conditions, but people can at least stay safe on the road. So even providing a good footpath which has continuity, why is that really becoming an issue? Even why scaling
I
up
would
becomes
just
an
say
issue?
one thing. Again, the prioritization. There are multiple works which a local body does.
Sorry, sir, because we've been talking from last 2 decades on equity of space for all kind of users. Why this has still not become a
I think footpath
priority?
is a problem which can be sorted out. Which can be sorted out. There will be multiple challenges. Few of them I can see right now. One is that in India, if you make a nice footpath, you will have vendors occupying it, particularly in market areas. Now the that pressure, which is again a kind of another argument about vendors' rights versus footpath dwellers. Footpath. I mean, there's a contradiction here which is not easy to solve. Now, while we can expand the footpaths and you can also have a vending zone, etc., these are easy to say. And relocating a vending zone is such an impossible thing to do. So those balances have to be found first. So find those balances. That is one. The second thing is that this cars and two wheelers occupying the entire road space, and since there is no regulation on parking, you can park it anywhere. A small two wheeler anywhere you can park, right? So that kind of situation is existing. Now to shift this two wheeler guy to a public transport, you have to have all of that last mile connectivity, good public transport, good quality, cheap. It should be comparable to the two wheeler cost of transportation, and then it should take you to the place where you want to go and then come back. And the second thing is, again, as I said, there is no critical public demand. Also, I think average Indians walk very less. And so again, the vicious cycle is that since roads and footpaths are not easy to walk, not safe to walk, people would take a auto rickshaw or two wheeler or four wheeler. So these things are all interrelated, and we need to simplify these problem into individual problems and then take one by one.
Okay. So though I won't agree that average Indians walk less, I guess we are just making infrastructure in a manner where I guess we end up not
I
walking.
agree with you.
Okay,
I
but
agree
again,
with you.
that's a different debate.
All I'm saying is that what is convenient for me, I would do that. And you can't blame a citizen because he's not walking on the road, right? And because he's not walking on the road, the public demand also is not there. So it all translates into the that constituency, that political question, that articulation, and then prioritization. So all of that decision making is a long process, and we can wish anything, but unless there is a proper articulated demand for anything, it will not happen.
Okay, but I still feel that we should be given different choices on how we want to move within the city. Sometimes because we have been given a choice that we will end up using our own private vehicle because that feels the most convenient. I don't think that's a good way to
Better
develop a
planning
city.
would do that in future. But fixing this old
True.
cities, the brownfield, is very challenging. We were trying in Georgetown area in Chennai to prepare a redevelopment plan. It's very, very difficult. I mean, it's a huge, huge exercise. So the new areas, greenfield, you can do all of that now because you know that is needed. But brownfield is going to take a lot of time, a lot of resources, and convincing a huge set of stakeholders, a huge number of people to do that.
So, sir, you've worked closely with both housing and mobility. How do you see the gap between where people live and where opportunities actually exist? And what could planning do differently to respond more humanly to these things?
Yes, definitely. This is one of the core questions in urban planning. You know why cities are formed, why cities grow. One of the basic fundamentals of understanding a city, how the city works, is to understand why people come to cities. People obviously come for work, and if they come for work, they need to live, right? And they need to commute every day. So all of this is connected. So ideally, house should be just next to your workplace, or it will be easily accessible. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess. The dependence on private vehicles, cars, etc., all that comes in play when you are not planning for the people who need to live in the city. So that is definitely one big question which needs to be addressed. And I think the way we are looking at urban integrated urban planning now, that will solve this problem if we are basically targeting certain areas for densification. So densification means more housing, more commercial spaces, and on the corridors. On the corridors means that it's easy for you to travel to your workplace. So maybe half an hour, 40 minutes, you can just reach to your workplace, which is ideal. And that TOD comes in picture. So I've seen you in US and in many other places where you can just walk to a mall, you can just go to an office space, go to an eatery, and go to a station nearby. Those things have to be planned if you want an efficient city, a livable city, and efficient in terms of the timing which you spend on transportation, the money which you spend on transportation. All of these questions can be handled by proper densification and properly locating the housing and commercial spaces, office spaces inside the city.
If there is one deeply ingrained belief about Indian urban planning system you would like to challenge, what would it
So
be?
one of my favorite, kind of understanding, and I like to challenge this thought, is that urbanization is against environment. I mean, this is a narrative which we need to question, and it is bad or unplanned urbanization which is against environment. When urbanization happens, nobody is aware that it will lead to such a problem in future for environment, and it will all impact all of us, and we'll have to face those problems. Related to it is that urbanization is eating into agriculture. Now, I mean, that is also a myth, and people should understand that, because agriculture does not provide employment to that huge number of people, and urban areas give better opportunities, better social infrastructure. People migrate from rural areas to urban areas. These are basic economics. I mean, and interestingly, landowners who are erstwhile farmers, whose land is lying near the urban areas on the peripheries, they're more than willing to sell the land to developers, right? Because they make more money. It's not about right or wrong, but the way it has been painted is that it is wrong, right? And all the related questions of developers occupying the water bodies and encroaching, all that. Part of it may be true, but not all of it is true. It's always private land, and nobody will give you permission to build on a water body. It's a private land which was water catchment area probably, but agriculture used to happen there. It was being used for private purposes. Now, since there is no agriculture, it has been converted into a residential. So, urbanization is not anti-agriculture or anti-environment. It is the bad planning or unplanned urbanization which has led to this situation. And we can always find a balance towards sustainable urban growth.
So, sir, finally, after everything you've seen and worked through, what does a truly human city look like to you?
I don't want to look at an ideal situation, but the way I look at Indian cities, if we look at 20, 30 years from now, we will definitely see more efficient urban areas with the part densification, with better facilities, better amenities. I see greenfield opening up in a better way than the brownfield, and there will be a balance in terms of managing the population pressure which is coming in. So small towns where something is happening, some economic activity is happening, we need to plan around that and convert them into a more self-sufficient urban agglomerations which can sustain large populations can take away some pressure from the core metropolitan areas, and the kind of interdependence can be done. So once you do this, you will have much better quality of life for people who are coming in. Of course, we'll definitely improve our infrastructure. Transportation will improve definitely. For example, metro systems are coming in. A lot of cities are focusing on bus systems. You'll have better transportation. Less problems in commuting from one place to other. But the focus should be also on creating employment opportunities. That is one. Unless you do that, you will always have these slums and all these poor people coming in and trying to find some job here and there. So that economic opportunities have to be structured a little better, and with that the stock has to be improved for smaller houses, 2 bedroom, not bedroom, 2 room, 3 room, not bedroom, smaller houses. That stock has to improve. And with all of that, you have to have a healthy city. So you have all the social infrastructure, the parks, you have urban spaces, which will come up eventually. I've seen CMDA and Chennai Corporation doing a lot of work on that. And I'm sure it will be definitely much better, if not ideal. It will be much better in the next 20, 30 years.
So there are a few questions from the audience. So this one is from Mohit. Said, do you think the Spawn City project happened in Chennai will prevent floods? And he also has one more question. Why are we not trying to follow Netherlands transportation
Okay.
approach?
So first one. So Sponge City program is a new one which has been adopted by Chennai, and CMDA led that project along with GCC. So one park was created. It's a 15 acres park, and it has a small lake there, and the bioswales and all those concepts have been utilized to divert water and filter it before it goes to the lake. And a very beautiful system has been created. But I would say that it's still a model. It's still a pilot. It has to be replicated. And luckily, the state government took up this, and they have announced multiple sponge park kind of things. And again, I would say because there is a demand, because flood is a very big issue in the city. So definitely it is a useful concept, but I would want to wait for some more time to see. So the quantification and objective assessment has to be done as yet. Once that is done, we will know the actual usefulness of this concept. But this is one of the kind of interventions for managing mitigating floods. The second question is said we always need to contextualize every intervention which we want to make. Unless you can take the crux of that thing and try to customize it according to your situation, it will be better. Otherwise, taking it as it is and trying to put it here will not be of any use, because the context is different, the culture is different, the climate is different, the people's mindset is different, and the incentives and disincentives are different. So all of that needs to be addressed if you want to adopt a good practice from elsewhere.
So there's a question from Shania. What essential skills should young administrators and planners develop early in their careers?
Okay, so there are multiple things one can do, but one important thing is to try and articulate the problem and then go to the problem solving. So unless you understand a problem in totality, you will not be able to find a proper solution to that. So that is one thing which you should develop if you want to become a problem solving kind of person. So that is one. Second thing which I would suggest is that the basic skills of articulation, the skills of negotiation, the convincing skills, collaboration kind of things which you can undertake. I mean, if you have to collaborate with someone, you really have to understand the person and understand his views. It may fail sometime, but most of the time it succeeds if you are able to understand what the other person is saying. The other side, the skills which you need is you need to update yourself with latest technical skills. You should know how to make a presentation, how to read a report, how to write a report. You need to know where to look for data. Need to know how to do data analytics, how to work on data, and you need to know what are the right questions we should ask. Of course, that requires practice. These are the things which you should inculcate, and that will help you in a big way. A lot of youngsters work with me and are still working. The ones who are open to learning and open to acquire new skill sets without any shame, they are doing very well. So be shameless when you have to acquire a new skill. It will help you in a big way. In fact, I also sometimes become shameless. Asking a very basic question sometimes embarrasses you, but you ask it. And when I was in Cornell 2 years back, my cohort was all in 27, 28, 30 years. I was the oldest one there. It was not easy for me to, be a student there. But if you want to learn, you have to, definitely be very, very frank, not shameless. Be frank and ask the questions wherever you want to. You have a confusion, so that will help in a big way.
There is one by Vedhavi, I guess. The 15-minute city concept should be taken up for smaller areas within a city, or should it be ideally practiced only for cities? Please throw us some light on that.
There has to be a functionality attached. For groceries, for example, you have a grocery shop in 15 minutes, you can just walk. But that is not the important thing. Going to market or a shop is definitely one thing, but groceries are not the only thing you buy. You go to a mall, go to a shop to buy clothes or shoes or any other thing for the house. So all that also needs to be taken into account. So yes, for that you need to go to a market, right? So whether you want to walk or you want to take a car or a public transport, that options should be there. And if there's a public transport, definitely it is fantastic. City Chennai has now come up with the idea of a tram. So they're going to put a tram system there. Interesting. And most of the Western countries have that system, which is efficient in a way in connecting to bigger transport systems, which is interesting. And they also replace buses at sometimes, or they integrate with bus systems. That's also important. 15-minute city concept might be utilized for TODs, because TODs are like 500 to 800 meters both sides of the corridor, and there if you can plan it, it will be easy for making it a 15-minute city. But existing brownfield and all this is going to be not easy. You really have to get inside that, do some detailed development plans, and there'll be other challenges, so that might not pick up easily. But transit corridors, the TOD may pick up, or if you can do in greenfield, definitely it is possible.
Should there be reforms in the way urban planning is taught at planning
Definitely.
schools?
Definitely. Good question. So the other day I was discussing with some of my team members, and we were saying that most of the urban planning which is being taught in the country is academic in nature. There's nothing wrong with that. But as I said earlier, unless there is an understanding of the fact that academics will remain on papers only, the research will remain on papers only if it is not grounded in reality. So I urge the academicians, the students, the lecturers, the teachers of urban planning to please take up projects in the city. I think one or two places it is more integrated with the urban systems and the government setups, but most of the places it is mostly academics, and that has also reflected in some of the plans which these institutions have made. So it remains more academic. Unless you understand the dynamics of the city in real terms, the economics of the city, and unless the real estate markets of the city, you will not be able to provide good input, useful input for urban planning. So definitely the mindset has to change from academic research to more grounded research and useful research. At the same time, the government setup also should open their arms and take the academic institutions in their fold and say that, okay, let us collaborate. So research and practice, they should collaborate if we want to do a real urban planning. And in fact, we did in CMDA in Chennai, we collaborated with the School of Architecture and Planning, funded a new course in B Plan. Now the fourth year is on. We funded for recruitment of 7 professors, and also funding was done for a new campus. So that kind of integration is required, right? And then you don't need to look for hiring a consultant or hiring an expert from outside. You have a kind of a very useful resource, an institution, academic institution sitting right inside the city. It's better to collaborate with them and use them.
So thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time, and even thank you to the audience for participating and listening through the whole conversation. So that was IS Officer Anshul Mishra on the Human City podcast. His journey shows us that making better cities is not about blueprints alone. It's about connecting housing, mobility, inclusivity, and resilience into one shared vision. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with others who care about the future of the cities. Until next time, I'm Ruchita Bansal, and this is the Human City
Thank you.
Podcast.